should Odell be the highest paid wide receiver in the NFL?
Yes, he should be. And that doesn't mean I'm saying he's the best, by the way. I think he is the most talented. I think he should be the best. I was arguing he was the best, but you cannot be considered the best if there are other guys in your league and they play their best when the team needs it the most and you do not. So Julio Jones, what we've seen from him in the highest leverage moments means he must be considered now the best receiver in the game. And so you say, well, fine, he's the highest paid, and so that's the way it should be. Or if you want to take per annum, it's Antonio Brown, and Brown is almost right there with Julio Jones, and that's the way it should be. But they're both older than Odell Beckham. So it's not just that I think Odell is more talented. And by the way, I don't think it'll be an issue if he gets his money. Will he still perform? He's a self-motivated guy. You don't get to be as good as him unless you self-motivate. I'm not worried about that. But even if you want to argue the other guys are better, they're older. And we know the way this works in the NFL. Your bonus is prorated over years. That's how they fit you under the cap. And so the younger you are and the more years they can pay you through, the more money they can give you because you'll still be worth the money later in your career. And because Odell is the next receiver up and he's the younger guy of the elite 3 receivers I identified, he should wind up being the highest paid. That's the way it works.
Well, you're wrong once again, but it's okay. I mean, here's the deal. Odell Beckham is 24, and Julio Jones and Antonio Brown 28, 29 respectively, if I remember correctly. But when you look at the numbers that they put up, not just in terms of yards, but in terms of amount of receptions, in terms of reliability, I don't think there's any question. But we know that Odell has an upside. In no way am I trying to say he doesn't deserve his money, Teddy and Max. I'm saying he doesn't deserve to be the highest paid receiver. There's a maturation process to all of this that he's still enduring, okay? And he has not arrived there yet. Yeah, Antonio Brown made a mistake with the Facebook post during the AFC playoff game after beating Kansas City, but that's pretty much about it. The man shows up to work, he performs. Julio Jones shows up to work, they perform. Yeah, they may be 4 years older, but we're not talking about them getting 10-year contracts for crying out loud. Usually, if you're a receiver, you get about 5 years. It's the NFL, so it doesn't matter how many amount of years you get. It doesn't stop it from cutting your salary, telling you to take a pay cut, waiving you, or whatever the case may be. This isn't the NBA where your numbers are guaranteed. So when you look at it from that perspective, I don't think there's any harm in saying that those guys deserve more money at this particular juncture because we're talking about the National Football League, and it's really contingent upon your level of production and your reliability over the short window of time that you are under that contract. In the case of Odell Beckham Jr., I think his better days are ahead. I think there are greater days ahead for him, and nobody's questioning the upside. As a matter of fact, I think people will come down on him entirely too harsh. They're trying to treat him like he broke the law or something like that. I think people need to pump their brakes with it. But there is a maturation process that he's still going through, and because of that, there's an absence of reliability. And until you're sure and comfortable with that reliability, you can't give him money that says you're number one, you're better than everybody else, because that's simply not the case at this moment in time.
Yeah, well, that money's down the line. It's not right now, definitely, because of the New York Giants and the leverage that they have through this year, through the next year, and also the franchise tag coming up. If he wanted to send a real message, he wouldn't have come to the mandatory minicamp. I said it last week that if he was serious about holding out due to a contract, he would have missed mandatory minicamp. I think him being there, maybe he realizes also the lack of leverage that he has. Do I agree that he deserves a mega contract? I mean, I don't know about the highest paid receiver in the league. I don't think he's the best receiver in the league. I'd put him at number 2 behind Julio. But he definitely has that maturation process that he has to go through. And probably the New York Giants are definitely looking at him through this year, looking at him through next year, to see if he's going to go through that process and become a player that they want to make that type of financial commitment for. His ability absolutely warrants it. He is incredible on the field, very rare talent, but the New York Giants right now, they do have the leverage.
Teddy, I get that, and you're right now, and that's the NFL. Why pay a guy before you actually have to? So that point is well taken. But when he does come up for a contract, being like, almost a half a decade younger than the other guys on his level, he will get paid more. Not only because he's the next guy up, and the next guy up usually sets the market, even if you don't consider him the best. And by the way, I also have him at best number 2 right now, because as I said, Julio Jones normally is almost as good, and when you need him the most is better. So I put Julio Jones number 1, but Odell will be next guy up, and he'll be younger, meaning the larger bonus you give him will be prorated over more years because you can expect more years of production.
Yeah, in terms of timing, Max, you're right. In terms of when he does get it, he will be the highest paid wide receiver. I don't know when he will get it, but in terms of timing with, his contract status, maybe it's next year or maybe the year after that, who knows? But when he gets it, it's going to be big, and it will be the highest paid probably receiver contract in the history of the league, because that's the way they're going now.
In fairness to him, if we're having this conversation because we're comparing the money that he will earn to whether or not it deserves to eclipse Julio or Antonio Brown, that's a fair conversation. What I find to be unfair to Odell is if we're talking about him being some temperamental, immature dude who does or doesn't deserve that money. That is nonsense. And I know we're not doing it, but we're talking about it because it's been percolating all over the newswires and everywhere else because he didn't show up to OTAs and what have you. Excuse me, it's voluntary. It's not mandatory. Yes, he should not, in my opinion, he should not have gone to South Beach to be chilling on a boat, partying and relaxing the week of a playoff game. But it was an off day. Yes, it would have been nice for him to catch those passes. That's the ultimate indictment against him. No, he had no business punching a wall because he was so frustrated that they had lost. But damn, he just showed frustration and he punched a wall. I think people are using it as an excuse to try and label this kid, and I don't think that's right.